Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
Remember, the quiet ones always have the darkest secrets. It's time to uncover them on Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, featuring former prosecutor and defense attorney Eric Faddis.
It feels like the villagers have their pitchforks. They've been dealing with this for quite a while, and all the BS in the healthcare system. And if anyone's ever dealt with the healthcare system, everyone has nightmare stories. I don't know anyone who hasn't had something where it's like, even if it's relatively small, still, a small issue can go on for weeks or months till it can be resolved. Anyone who thinks the healthcare system is working well, I think, has never used the healthcare system. All that being said, you know, we have laws in place. We have Congress that allows these healthcare companies to do what they do and have the policies that we have. Ultimately, they're going to make money. This is their goal. That is what a business is there for, unless it becomes a non-for-profit industry, which would be blowing it up, basically. And I think in the best interest of human beings, that might be what needs to be done. But there's so many caveats to that as well. Do you think that there will be any congressional moves on things like this, or is it going to take more copycats, more horrible things like this to take place before there's any sort of change made? Because it seems all the correct routes that, you know, people have gone through to raise their concerns, to try to make change, just hit a brick wall eventually. And now they're here with the pitchforks.
You know, it's a great question. And I think that there is a difference between societal will and political will. Mm-hmm. Is there societal, are civilians saying, hey, we need some freaking change? Absolutely. When you look at how the House and Senate are comprised and who's in, who will be in the president's office, those circumstances do not lend themselves to some big change that would be to the detriment of the big healthcare. Mm-hmm. That being said, can changes be made on the state side? They certainly can. And could little tweaks be made even in this political environment that could help sort of pacify some of these citizen concerns? I think those things could be real, but a huge change is not realistic within the next 4 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree with you right there. How do you represent somebody like this, from a legal standpoint and a defense standpoint?
You make it about anything but what happened on that sidewalk in New York. You make it about these growing concerns that are widespread among Americans regarding healthcare. You also look into whether they can prove it's him. I've heard his attorneys say, hey, look, you've got some snapshots and you've got some pictures of clothing and stuff, and that's not enough to prove it's him. I think there's evidence that was found on him that is pretty problematic on the guilt side. But I think you make it about anything but him shooting this, ostensibly innocent CEO in cold blood in the middle of the street.
I mean, can they argue that it wasn't him at this point, or is it more so this? I don't know that you can even do that. I mean, it's like, yeah, it was pretty much him. But can you argue? Is there any argument that can be made of why it was justified? I'm not saying it was justified at all, but if you're trying to argue this to a jury, that's what you're going to try and communicate to get your client off.
The only way that they could, so there is no cognizable legal defense that says, hey, this guy was hurting a bunch of Americans through his company, if you see it that way, and so it's okay to kill him. There's nothing that says that. There is kind of the hidden secret defense of jury nullification, which is essentially that, hey, this happened, but the jury is not willing to find someone guilty for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Is it some moral reason? Is it some other reason? So you can inject, or you can as an attorney, if you want, try to inject some evidence that could be supportive of jury nullification and hope the jury sees it like you do.
Do you think we could that this could actually go there in this case? I mean, what you're describing is we've seen it before on cases where like a father kills the rapist of his daughter or something like that, and he gets off. It was murder, but it was just somewhat justified. And the jury, even though it was murder, says we're not going to do that. Where do you think a jury is going to land on this one, just with what we know so far in the public? And obviously when this makes it to trial, we're talking years likely. So that hype will, go down. But do you see this being like a situation where it's going to be a battle of maybe a hung jury, or maybe, them looking at this going, man, we're not going to say he's guilty?
One thing I wonder on that is whether he's going to be charged federally. Yeah. And the reason I ask that is because the death penalty is still on the table in federal court. I don't know in New York State court if that's an option. I don't have it in front of me, but New York is not usually inclined to bring death penalty cases. So if there's the death penalty on the table, perhaps his attorneys would broker an agreement that say, hey, if you let this guy live, he'll accept life in prison. And that would eliminate the need for a trial. Mm-hmm. So there is some sort of brokering that can be done during negotiations that might prevent a trial. But ultimately, it's the defendant's choice whether to accept a deal and go to trial. And if Luigi Mangione is who we think he is, I think he's going to ask for a trial.
How does this turn into a federal trial and it's not being a state trial? Obviously he fled over state lines, but is there another caveat here that makes it be able to be charged federally?
They're going to have to look at how the firearm was procured. I understand it might even be a 3D printed firearm. Yeah. They're going to have to look at whether there was any interstate commerce involved. Mm-hmm. They would have to sort of find something on which they can hang their hat to say, hey, this gives us federal jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that exists in this case. Yeah. But absent the death penalty on the table, I see this guy asking for a trial, taking it all the way, and at least having his day in court and letting his position be heard. That's the kind of guy he strikes me as. That's
what it strikes me as too, where he probably knew going in, he'd probably get caught, but that's going to be more publicity for, what he believes is right, what his cause is to be in court and to get that sort of spotlight. It's going to be fascinating to see where this all goes. Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You're in the thick of a true crime saga, every detail sinking in, and then, wham, a commercial about something you couldn't care less about. It's like being served a microwaved dinner at a 5-star restaurant. But it doesn't have to be this way. Go for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. With True Crime Today Premium Plus, you get uninterrupted, ad-free episodes, extended interviews that dig even deeper into the muck, and early access so you can brag to your friends. It's like ordering the secret menu at a crime buffet. So, search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and savor every twisted detail without interruption.